It just means more in the SEC, but not in the way that you think. Michigan could be the smartest member of B1G, and could the ACC miss the CFP altogether? All that and more. Fourth and One podcast, excuse me.
Did we just see anything we just saw?
I messed up the intro, but I guess that's why we're the worstest podcast on the interwebs. Thank you, everyone, for being here. All you new fans. Thank you, everyone who has newly subscribed. Everyone who helped that clip on TikTok, Fourth and One Pod, over there on the TikTok account, goes semi-viral. Bob, we're up to 65,000 views, by the way, with that.
Let's go.
Yeah. So semi-viral with that. Thank you, everyone. If you are subscribing us and watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. Instagram, Fourth and One Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, be sure to listen. It's Fourth and One Podcast, all spelled out. I was gone this past weekend. Went to Birmingham, Alabama, and then went to Tuscaloosa on Saturday for Alabama LSU. So I didn't catch most of the game, but Robert was on game patrol, so he knows all about that. And he will kind of fill us in on what not only I missed, but you maybe have missed in and of yourself, because the dispute between YouTube TV and Disney continues. But that's not where I want to start. Where I want to start right now, that wasn't loud enough, there we go, is a private equity deal pending for the Big Ten Conference. The Big Ten is set to get an influx of cash. How much? $2.4 billion to be exact. And that is to a private equity firm out in California for 10% of the Big Ten. It would extend the grant of rights by 10 years from 2036 to 2046. And it would roughly average to $135 million to each school. Every school, though, is guaranteed over $100 million right away from this influx of cash. So basically, it's $2.4 billion for a 20-year commitment and 10% of the Big Ten. Michigan and USC, however, have not agreed to this deal. They are the only two members pending that are not in line, quote unquote, with this deal. And I'm going to say good for both of them. I don't think that there has ever really been a good scenario in which private equity gets involved with a multi-billion-dollar corporation that, in this case, the Big Ten, and it turns out well for the members and the people within that organization. So, Robert, why don't we kind of get your perspective as I get my thoughts together here? What do you think of this deal?
I personally think that if you can't get all, what are we at, 16 teams, 14, 16?
I think 18, but yeah.
If you can't get all 18 on board with it, then it's probably not. And especially when it's some, let's see what she was into. Like your bigger schools. Now, like if it's like Purdue, like your smaller ones that aren't necessarily producing to where you would want, but like, Michigan and USC aren't two programs that you generally want to do things without. It'd be the same thing if it was like Ohio State and Penn State, or, Wisconsin, maybe Nebraska. But I just don't think that this is probably, I understand why. Obviously, big money, $2.4 billion. That's not something that you can just really walk away from. But it kind of seems like this could be potentially the end for the Big Ten in a way. If they're just like, yep, we're going to go ahead. We're going to do this without USC. We're going to do it without Michigan. I mean, that could kind of lead for Big Ten or Michigan and USC to kind of maybe look elsewhere if because they're not going to feel respected in the. Which I know some people are going to be like, oh well, Michigan's never been respected, blah blah, but they're kind of choosing money over loyalty to the conference.
As I said, I think when you go public, which is essentially kind of what they're doing, right? They're selling 10% of their quote unquote soul to a private equity. And they will have no voting rights. No, it's basically like a silent partner. However, if you own 10% of the company and then the company kind of stops producing for you, there will be consequences. For every action known to mankind, there is a consequence off of that. I don't know what the consequence would be of getting $2.4 billion. I understand why teams like, as you said, Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, these smaller, quote unquote, smaller Big Ten schools would want an influx of $135 million. What I don't understand is why Ohio teams like Ohio State, Penn State, your big Oregon, that one really surprised me, even Washington are voting for this. I understand it's always good to have money, but if you are Michigan, you don't know what college football is going to look like not only in 20 years, you don't know what college football is going to look like in 5 years. Heck, you don't know what college football is going to look like next year, quite possibly. So why would you lock yourself into a conference for the 20 years for a little bit of money, again, in quotations, little bit of money up front, when you can see how this thing plays out? If you are Michigan, and I don't know, I only am speaking because I know Michigan's kind of, the rumors of their financial situation. I don't know USC's, but I'm going to guess they are very similar if they are both taking stands. If you are Michigan, you're a great brand, true for both. You have great boosters that I know Michigan specifically. Your boosters are great. You're a good brand. You have what's the word? You have stability for the next 10 years, at least until 2036. Why would you do anything before that? So 2036 comes rolling around, right? You don't sign this deal. They say, hey, you didn't get the money up front, so you're going to be asked to leave because you're granted rights. You don't think the SEC would immediately knock on Michigan's doorbell, knock on USC's doorbell, especially Michigan, and be like, hey, why don't you come play in the Southeastern Conference? Because not only is it good for the SEC, but it's also a way to hurt the Big Ten if you're the SEC, because now you have recruiting ties in Big Ten territory. And you can say, you can even go to Michigan, but you're going to play in the SEC, right? So I think Michigan is perfectly set up for this. I understand why teams like Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, with smaller collectives want to do this, and I'm not saying don't take the money, but I will always stop and question about quote unquote selling your soul for fast cash,
Well, and it kind of doesn't make sense for the Big Ten as a conference in general, because it's not like the conference is itself in financial turmoil either. They I think they got like $900 some million just either last year, or that's what they clocked in for this year, like fiscally. But they're projected to get up to $1.4 billion in revenue. Like it's not like they're kind of in the Pac-12, Big 12 shoes, where it's like you don't necessarily have a media deal and the money's kind of there, but not really. Like there's a super influx of cash in the Big Ten, and it's kind of just like that greedy, money please kind of thing.
It almost seems like
Money, please.
there we go. It almost seems like the Big Ten is scared that their top teams will walk off and form a super conference with other SEC members, right? Which I think eventually is what college football will become, which is sad and a topic for another day. So they are just trying to lock everyone in for the next 20 years, which again is what you said. It's all about money and it's all about greed at that point in time. And Michigan, as of right now, is smart enough to see through all of that, I think, and say, no. You are not going to buy us for $135 million. We will just sit back, see how it plays out. And if you don't like us, you can kick us out in 10 years because that's when our contract with you expires and not the other way around, right? They are finally in control. The school is finally in control, not the conference.
Right. If this was like the MAC, where you're like,
Yeah.
you come in and you're like, hey, this is our plan. They're offering X amount. It's a big influx of cash for the smaller schools. You're like, no brainer, 100%. But even Ohio State, like, why is Ohio State selling? Like, they made such a big deal about the Ohio State, and it's like you're kind of now you're just going to be Ohio State. Like, you're essentially not so much. Yeah, you're selling your soul, but like you're kind of selling your brand too.
Yeah.
Like you're eventually not going to have control over this. It's not going to be the horseshoe. Not that it is really anymore, but like eventually they're going to be like, well, we think that we should probably start renaming some of these. Oh, we forgot to tell you, we sold Northwestern's rights. The percentage that we sold that to a different company.
Right. The other thing that I think Michigan has in their back pocket is Notre Dame for their home games got $225 million for like the next, I think they also got like an 8-year contract with NBC. You can't tell me that Fox or CBS, who hasn't had a big game in forever since they bought the network, or NBC or ESPN even, wouldn't give them money, wouldn't give Michigan at least $225 million to broadcast their home games. Michigan is such a big brand that I think they're a lot like Notre Dame, where even if the SEC doesn't want them, for example, or the ACC or whoever else, they could go out and get their own deal by some other network. Now, I mean, that's what I believe anyway. Okay, so Brian Kelly has officially not been fired by LSU. We're not going to talk about this at all. I just want everyone to know LSU has not yet put in his termination papers, so now Brian Kelly is suing LSU. He's not technically the coach, but he hasn't technically been fired because LSU was trying to find a way to fire him with cause to not have to pay him $54 million. And Brian Kelly is like, well, I want my money. And so now a lawsuit's going to happen, as it normally does in college football. Let's go ahead and talk about the week that was, and that would be week 11 in college football. Again, I was at Alabama LSU. We will talk about that in just a minute. Robert, you said the games weren't that great. I will take your word for it. I did catch the end of Indiana Penn State. So why don't we start there, because you said that was one of the games you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, if anyone figured that the Indiana Penn State game was going to end the way that it did, you would have had to have had some sort of tie-in with Vegas or something. But that was... So you give a lot of credit to Penn State because that was probably the best Penn State has played since the Oregon game. They finally looked like the Penn State of old.
What they were supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, the offense was moving. They were moving the ball. The defense they were holding Indiana. Like, I mean, it had all the makings of, we're upsetting number 2. We're getting this back on track. We're going to make our bowl game. We're going to finish on a high note. And then Indiana does what Indiana does, drives down the field. Penn State did get them at least to a third down, but 2 back-to-back just ridiculous catches from Indiana to win the game. At first, I didn't think he caught it. I was like, I don't know if he caught it. But then,
Neither did anyone at the tailgates, my man.
well, when they slowed it down the first time, I was like, oh, he's out of bounds. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
This will be fourth down. But then they like kept looking at it, and I'm like, well, no, maybe he is. He did get it in, and then they of course they said he was in. They touchdown. They win. But watching that game, if Penn State would have played like that against Ohio State, I think that game is a lot closer. But right now, I would put Indiana above Ohio State right now. And the main reason I said this to you and Simeon was I at least know how Indiana is going to respond to adversity. You're losing, all the pressure's on you, and they came out, handled business, and won. I haven't seen it from Ohio State yet just because they haven't really been tested. The game against Texas was 14-7, but Arch was terrible.
Yeah.
They didn't have Arch now compared to Arch then, a little bit different. I don't think it really mattered if Arch was playing now compared to how he was then. But I need to see how Ohio State responds to where they have to score a touchdown this drive to win the game. I don't think they're going to run into that issue just because of the rest of the way their schedule is. I mean, UCLA, Rutgers, and then at Michigan. Maybe we see it at Michigan just because it's that gut check kind of game. But I guess looking at it, the worst case scenario for Ohio State is you have to prove that during the playoffs, which is where you really don't want to have to prove that. But, actually, we'll probably see it in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah. So
in theory.
Yeah. So everyone is also crowning Mendoza as a Heisman. That is just kind of the reaction I'm seeing online from this game. He is not. I'm not ready to crown him.
First off, that is all because of Gus Johnson, and that how I feel about Gus Johnson.
I do. I do.
He was more than just annoying watching that game.
More than usual,
dude. It was I would rather it just if he didn't talk because everything is so exaggerated, and you would have thought that he won the Heisman that night. It was just incredible. But I mean, yeah, he could be a finalist. But I mean,
so people were saying that was his Heisman moment. I'll say this. Listen, he had nothing to do with the catch. Omar Cooper Jr., he was the MVP of that play. I thought it would have been good on Sundays, that catch, with how spectacular it was. The throw, okay, yes, you could make the argument it was where only the receiver could get it. It could have been 2 feet lower and still where only the receiver could have got it. Mendoza also took a sack to start the drive. I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. He is. He will probably, at this point in time, be the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft just because the draft class has just fallen off a cliff from what it was. But he was 19-30 for 218, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. And you're like, Micaiah, that's really good. Okay, yeah, so fine. Then Ethan Grunkmeyer, the true freshman Penn State quarterback, who was 22 of 31 for 1 touchdown and 1 interception and 219 passing. So he's not setting the world on fire. Now, if he would have thrown for 350 yards, had that game-winning touchdown, thrown for 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, whatever, command of the game, that's fine. But in every time I watch Indiana play, what I get is they're a running football team. They want to run the football and have Fernando Mendoza control the game and manage the game. There's nothing wrong with game managers. They will win you national championships. Go ask Nick Saban, right? Nick Saban, all he had throughout the years was just game managers. That's fine. But let's not act like Mendoza's doing something spectacular or even did something spectacular on Saturday. The throw was fine. He was getting crushed by 2 defensive ends. Again, it's impressive he made that throw, but let's not act like he threw the ball and then caught the ball as well.
Since we're on the somewhat topic of Heisman,
Yeah.
I just want to go ahead and point out that the Sawyer Robertson,
Yeah. Baylor's quarterback. Shout out.
yes, right now he's better than both. Then he's better, just flat out. He's throwing more touchdowns. I think he's leading the country in touchdowns right now, tied with Fernando.
For tops.
Yeah, 26, and
Wow.
then number 3, Joe Fagnano from UConn.
Oh, the wide receiver. I just saw
quarterback.
Oh,
The
because
quarterback is throwing for 25, but their wide receiver
is balling this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to UConn. Yeah.
Yeah, Skylar Bell leads in touchdowns and is second in yards.
Okay. Well, good for them. So those are odds that you're reading, the Heisman.
No,
odds?
those are just the stats.
No,
Sawyer Robertson's not even going to be. He's not even going to go to New York because Baylor's not a top 5 school.
Yeah, Baylor's not even a top 50 school.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate, dumb part about the Heisman. It has honestly become the most overrated award because it's almost like the MVP for the NFL, but the Heisman used to be the best player. Now it's like, well, it's going to go to the best player on the best team. And it's like, well, if you're going to go and give it to Julian Sand, who is currently 14th in passing yards. And I think
number
he's
one in QBR, though.
Yeah, that's fine. You can be number 1 in QBR, but if you don't have like the other stats behind it, like what does it matter?
So then who would you give it to?
Right now, I'd give it to Sawyer Robertson because he's right now. Well, I guess you could give it to Mendoza. He does have 2 less interceptions. But yeah, I mean, you could give it to either one of them. I wouldn't say. I think Mendoza has more rushing touchdowns though, but that's way down the list. Yeah, but it's just one of those deals where it's like I hate when they go and they like when was it Marv Harrison when he won
the
Bolitnikoff? They gave him the Bolitnikoff, but he didn't even lead the country in receiving yards.
So then let me ask you this, right? Because technically the passing leaders right now is Walker Eget from San Jose State. So then what's your cutoff? Because I do think record does have to play into it. If you want to make the argument that the Heisman has turned into best player and best team, I will concede that point to you. But where is your cutoff of, okay, this guy, say they lost 4 games. They're not even in the top 25. They're not ranked. He has no ranked wins. In the one game that they did play a Power 4 opponent, for example, he played really bad or whatever it is. Like, where are you delineating between record and stats? Because I feel like both have to mean something.
I would say, okay, if you're going to give it to a quarterback, you at least got to be top 5 passing yards, at least either top 5 or top 10 in passing touchdowns. Like, you have to me, mainly because the Heisman is solely a individual award. It's as much as football is a team game, you're giving this award because he's the best player. So if it comes down to it and Walker Eget throws for 4,000 yards and throws for 30 touchdowns, leads the country, but gets penalized because he plays for San Jose State, who isn't in the big conference, who's not on TV all the time, to me, that's just BS. Like, the kid's not even going to get drafted he might not really get drafted at all, but because he's playing at San Jose State. Now, would Walker, what would he do if he played at Ohio State with, the receiving core that he had?
So, do you think record should come into it? Because on the other end of this, San Jose State is 3-6 overall and 2-3 in conference, right? Like they're not very good.
Right.
So where does record need to come in at that point in time? So yeah, you got to be top 5 in some sort of statistical category, rushing, receiving, passing, whatever. But then say the top guy is Walker Eget. He's the nation's top leader in passing yards. He's doing really well, but they're 3-6.
I don't really think the record should count though, just because the quarterback can't control the defense. If Arch Manning goes out there and just plays out his mind, but Texas has like a sub 50 defense in the SEC, like you can't. I just don't like penalizing them for things they can't control. It's kind of like when like if Saquon when he played for the Giants, we all knew who Saquon was. But if Saquon would run for 3,000 yards, but the Giants they would lose they lose every game like a normal season. But you're going to say, well, he's not on the top team. He's not even a top 5 or top 10 team. We can't really give it to him. We got to give it to somebody else who's on a top team with less stats.
I understand your point. I don't necessarily agree. I think record has to come in at some point in time to it. Just because that's how football works. Football is wins and losses. And I do see your point, and I do understand your point. That doesn't mean I have to agree with it. But right. Yeah, I mean, it's a solid point. I would just say that there needs to be a healthy mix. I will point to years that, like, for example, Robert Griffin III won the Heisman one year. They lost 4 games that year, I do believe. Jaden Daniels, most recently, I think LSU lost 3 games that or 3 games that year and weren't in the college football playoff consideration. I think that is like, if you're deep into November and you're still part of playoff and conference championship, not even that, but playoff and at the more than halfway up your conference standings, I think that you should be in the conversation. It doesn't need to go to the 1 loss and the undefeated, unless if they truly earned it. Example there would be Joe Burrow in 2019 for LSU. He was unbelievable. He should have won the Heisman. He led the nation in touchdowns. He set a passing touchdown record. He led them in passing yards, I do believe, that year. Or the nation in passing yards. So he was outstanding. But there are exceptions to every rule. But that is just kind of, I will agree that the Heisman has become best guy on best team sort of deal.
Well, Jaden Daniels at least made sense, though. He threw for 40 touchdowns. He was top 5. He had the top 5 stat that he needed.
Right.
He had the passing touchdowns and the yardage.
Yep.
And then he had 10 rushing touchdowns with some yardage.
No.
So that made sense, right?
Right.
Even though he wasn't on the best team, he had some of the best stats. He was just better.
Correct. I do agree. But I do think that there was a happy medium because I think if he had all those stats. Okay, sorry. I do think if he had all those stats, but they were 5-7, okay. Like, you got to be relevant into November. Your team needs to be relevant, for me at least. Your team needs to be relevant into November for me to consider you in the Heisman. And you may say that's unfair, and that's fine. That's just kind of...
No, I get it.
Right?
I get it. Yeah, I just hate that they penalize for stuff that you can't.
Yeah,
you can't control.
You can't control. I do think that the Heisman it's not most valuable player, right? It's like, I forget what the most outstanding player in college football. I think that's the definition of the Heisman. However, I will say Haynes King on Georgia Tech. If you take Haynes King off of Georgia Tech, dude, they're a 500 ball club. They are not 8-1. They are not sniffing the playoffs. So he needs to be in that conversation. I don't
he'll
even
be in
know
a wheelchair by the end of the season. So.
For sure. Where are you going to go here? All right. What other games did you watch that really caught your eye from this past weekend?
The Texas Tech BYU.
Okay.
There was an immense amount of hype for the game. At least the first 15 minutes of the game were all about the fact that Patrick Mahomes was in attendance and they were wearing the Patrick Mahomes iced out uniform or whatever they were calling it, which they just looked like white uniforms with some sparkles on it. But
Slay.
Dude, the amount I get it. Patrick Mahomes, great quarterback when he actually has receivers around him or has the rest in his pocket, however you want to look at it, depending on what kind of fan art you are. But the game really wasn't, I don't think it lived up to the hype.
Okay.
Just because Texas Tech just manhandled BYU. And it was Texas Tech's defense. They took control of that game from the jump. And it was kind of what we kind of I don't think we expected the defense to command it as much as we did. I still thought BYU's offense would do something. But I think they ended up with 3 turnovers, and Texas Tech would capitalize, and here we are 29-7 later, and it was well, there's another. It kind of seems like when they do, wherever game day goes, there's a ton of hype around the game, but the game just doesn't kind of pan out.
Yeah.
As much as what we would think it would.
So I'm just looking through the play-by-play. Again, I did not watch a single second of this game. I haven't even watched the highlights. But the Texas Tech got the ball at the BYU 17, lost 12 yards, kicked the field goal. Then they went on their next drive, 12 play, 92 yards, touchdown. Their next drive, they went 8 plays, 59 yards, but kicked a field goal at the BYU 8. Then they did a punt, then end of half, then another punt after half, then a field goal that ended at the BYU 21. Then they kicked another field goal that ended at the BYU 11. Then they scored a touchdown, punted again, field goal that ended again at the BYU 16. Texas Tech is going to have to score touchdowns.
The offense wasn't there.
Apparently not. Apparently it stalled out inside the 20 multiple times.
Well, and part of me wonders if not having the backup quarterback is affecting them more than what they thought.
Well, he was more of a runner for sure.
So I think they lost that, which now I think they got to figure out what else can we do. And luckily they have just this premier defense that is just doing work.
They held Bear Bachmeier, true freshman, and the BYU offense to 255 total yards, 67 yards rushing, 2.5 yards a carry. Meanwhile, Texas Tech ran for 3.5 yards a carry and 150 yards. The whole stats in terms of time of possession, penalty yardage, all that was about even. As you said, they forced 3 turnovers of BYU. But honestly, if they were to score touchdowns instead of field goals, this game very easily could have been 45.
Oh, yeah.
To 7. It was not even close.
Yeah, the only saving grace for them was the fact that they were able to hold them to field goals that at least kept my attention in it until pretty much the third quarter when it was 19-0, and I was like, all right. There's no coming back right now.
It's done.
Something crazy is going to have to happen.
All right. So speaking of crazy things that didn't happen, you said you wanted to talk about Iowa and Oregon. I had some spotty service. The Alabama Stadium, Bryant-Denny Stadium, Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium is what was repeated over and over again. Did have very good Wi-Fi, so once I was in the stadium, my reception was better. But I saw that it was 2-0 at the end of the first quarter. And I think I texted the group, yeah, that just feels right for a Iowa potential upset. You called the upset in the picks last week. You almost had it. Walk-off field goal from Oregon from what I saw. What did you see from the game?
First off, it was your prototypical Big Ten game. Horrible weather. I mean, it was just pouring.
Yeah.
Maybe slash snowing. I couldn't really tell on the TV, but it looked like it was mainly rain. But, I mean, the safety was all because Iowa was punting.
Naturally.
And the snap over the head. And of course, he's running into the end zone trying to get... So he tries to smack it out of the end zone. It rolls like maybe another yard.
That's a penalty, by the way.
Yeah, so they called. Of course, they called it. Then he tried to kick it out of the end zone. He whiffed the first time.
Oh my gosh!
And then he was able to get it out of the end zone. But I mean, Iowa played defense. They just stuck, and Oregon let Iowa stick around, and it's just Iowa played their style of football, and it was funny because in the fourth quarter, it was. I think that was when Oregon was winning and Iowa had the ball like all the way in their own territory. And the announcer said, I don't think Iowa is going to be able to drive down the field without having to throw the ball. And like very next play, Iowa throws like a 40-yard ball because the guy got behind Oregon's safeties and corners. But I mean, Iowa had it. They just couldn't get the stop when they needed to. But overall, it was actually a very good game, sloppy game due to the weather. But I mean, overall, it was good. That was probably like one of my more favorite games to watch.
Iowa had only 239 yards of offense. They had 2 turnovers. They had 18 first downs. They had 1 penalty for 0 yards. Not sure how that happened, but that's kind of cool. They were 5 of 13 on third down. More importantly, they were 3 for 4 on third down, and they held time of possession for 7 more minutes over Oregon. This really should have been an Oregon kind of hang-around game for Iowa, but then they should have put Iowa away just based on stats alone. But again, it's Iowa in Kinnick in November against the top 10 team. This is just kind of how it goes for them.
That 1 penalty for 0 yards was the safety.
Was the safety. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Oregon kind of survives and advances at this point in time, getting closer and closer to securing a playoff bid. Okay, so here we can talk about LSU, Alabama, which I don't actually really want to talk about the game. Here's my thing from the game. LSU was so undisciplined. They had so many false start penalties that my wife, even at one point, looked at me and goes, that's like their 6th false start penalty. The crowd was extremely loud. The atmosphere was incredible. This should have been a 35-9 game. Ty Simpson missed 2 wide open touchdowns that he just was not able to complete. The total yardage, it was total domination. 344 to 232. 1 turnover to 2. 17 first downs, 3. 2 penalties for Alabama. 10 for LSU. Alabama was 4 of 13 on third down. That was their big thing. They were 1 of 2 on fourth down, including a first possession stop in which they ran a direct... For half a yard, they ran a direct RB snap. Made no sense to me, but whatever. They did lose time of possession, but I'm telling you, everybody, they dominated the game, and LSU's offense really, really sucked. That's not what I want to talk about for this game.
It was a pretty boring game to watch.
It was. Well,
I turned it off. I was like, oh.
Dude, I was in the stands, man. We left after Dixieland Delight, which I think played with like 4 minutes to go, and I'm just They played Dixieland Delight. We sung through it. It was awesome. Love it. Experience. It's a top 5 college tradition for me. It's awesome. And then I'm like, okay, we can go because Alabama's not losing this game. They're up 11. Let's get out of here. And so that's what happened. Okay. What I want to talk about is, the saying, it just means more? The SEC always says it just means more. Okay.
Just means more.
And you hate it because two things can be true. They say it because it means they are better at everything, right? That's not why it just means more. Football does mean more to them, and I will give example, but that doesn't mean that they are just better at sports, and particularly football. The energy was unmatched from any college football energy I had ever experienced. The Walk of Champions, by the way, what is that? 30 seconds, they walk down a sidewalk, they walk by you, and they go into the stadium. The Walk of Champions at least needs to be like a quarter mile long. It was maybe 1,000 feet, like not even a football length. So figure that out, Alabama. But the passion, the energy, the loudness of the stadium, just the anticipation of the game, it does mean more. Each and every game day does mean more to them. Again, doesn't mean they're better at football. But why I say it means more is there are these houses that are called the houses that Saban built. And it has nothing to do with the stadium, but the houses outside of the stadium. Surrounding the stadium on almost every side are sorority and fraternity houses, more importantly, sorority houses. They are minimum 20, 25 bedroom houses, bunch of bathrooms, I'm sure. I didn't go in them because they all have security outside to make sure people aren't just walking in these houses. They are across the street from the stadium. Stadium sits road, and on each and on the side, mansion sorority houses all the way around. And they had to build these new sorority houses because of the popularity that Nick Saban brought. And that just has to feed into the fact that football just means more than football, for example, in Indiana. You can love it. You can love me or hate me for that comment, but that's just fact. Off of seeing that was just outstanding. I will say this. Everyone gets dressed up for these football games. All the girls were in nice party clothing. All the guys were in polos and khakis. Why? Okay. Also, their tailgating, they weren't parties, I will say. They were more of social gatherings. It reminded me of the videos that I see of the Kentucky Derby, right? Everyone's there having cocktails, drinking, but nothing's wild and rowdy. Everything's pleasant. There weren't a bunch of screaming. There wasn't cussing. There was loud music, but that's just because of the area size. But
so they don't know how to do it like the North, huh?
Dude, they don't know how to do it like the North, but the vibe is just a social gathering of hundreds of thousands of people. Also, apparently, I don't know if this is a weekly thing, but I'm pretty sure kids were taking their parents to the sorority and frat house parties on the front lawn. Like it's a whole different vibe down there.
There's also a lot of money down there too.
Oh, so much money. Oh, that is very evident based on the cars.
Well,
hold on.
Make sure to tell them about the free water. The water cooler.
Oh, okay. All right. I will tell everyone about the free water. Go ahead, Robert.
Right. So, how you're talking about how everything looks around the stadium.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast, which I know some people do, walk around Beaver Stadium once or twice. You're never going to want to do it again.
Yeah, that's true.
Walk around Michigan Stadium. You might do it one more time.
Yeah.
But, it's not where the money is.
That is correct, yes.
Because it's just it's just different. Academics mean more. For the Big Ten, when the Big Ten says it means more, because C's don't get degrees in the Big Ten.
That's true. Yeah.
For the Big Ten, it's more in it's more in the academic aspect of it, and then everything else kind of trickles into the sports, and then they just feed off each other. But yeah, I mean, I would assume Ole Miss is probably the same way.
Yeah.
I would assume probably all of them, maybe not Vanderbilt as much.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. Again, I haven't been to Vanderbilt, but again, an eye-opening experience. It was great. In terms of stadium in, stadium out experience, which is the following: getting to the stadium and parking, then getting from parking to the stadium, getting in the stadium and around the stadium once you were inside, and then returning to your car and leaving the facility. I would say of all the stadiums I've been to, it is third, closer to tied for second. Michigan is number one. And if you want to have an argument with me about that, I will say you're going to lose, because they have figured out how to disperse 150,000 people from the Ann Arbor grounds in and around the stadium in a matter of an hour and a half. They have it down to a science. Rutgers would be second, much smaller scale, because I think Rutgers only sits about 45,000 people, but you have to shuttle to the stadium. All of the shuttle pickup and drop off is in one spot, and then getting out, you're leaving from a big parking lot, and again, it's one way out. They don't let any cars in during that time. Alabama, we paid for cheaper parking, so we parked in the back. It was about 1.25 miles to the stadium. However, shuttle pickup and drop off still drops you off about a good half mile from the stadium, and it wasn't clearly marked both before and after the game. So me and Carrie, being able-bodied, we just ended up walking to and from the parking, the 1.33 miles or 1.25 miles, whatever it was, to and from. And that was all fine. We got to experience the fraternities and the sororities and walk by all the houses that Saban built. Inside the stadium, though, it was excellent. You must enter at designated security checkpoints and gates, because you have to go up certain spirals that are on each corner of the stadium to get to your sections, which I like that. So it does kind of disperse people out from not all trying to cram into one entrance. And then inside the stadium, because it tends to be so hot, and it was even in the upper 70s when the game started, then it cooled down, is they have free water inside the stadium. Carrie wanted me to mention that all of the girls who were dressed nice, and some of them scantily clad, but still in nice attire, everyone down there was 2x4s, which surprised me a lot. I thought that would not be the case, but everyone looked like a 2x4 walking around.
I was trying to figure out what you were talking about when you said 2x4.
Dude,
I was like, oh, so skinny.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, super skinny. Like, no bumps anywhere, if you know what I'm saying. So, but yeah, and she wanted to also not condemn, that's the wrong word, but say congratulations to all these sorority girls who walk around in fancy shoes, because she was wearing tennis shoes and her feet hurt at the end of the day. So she can only imagine what the sorority girls' feet felt like at the end of their day.
Well, I would imagine that's just I would imagine that they probably wear those shoes. It's probably their dress code. Like, they probably have to wear it all the time whenever they're out in public or something like that. Or it might just be their typical Saturday attire.
It was, and we did touch on that. We're like, well, I wonder if they're mandated to go to a certain number of football games. I'm like, probably. Apparently, the sororities and fraternities are called the machine down there. If you get started in the quote-unquote machine, you're like set up for life, because the machine runs the government. It's a whole thing. I don't know.
Well, I wonder, is it Tennessee where the more like sporting events you go to, the more points are added towards your
meal plan.
Not so much as your meal plan, but they're like, there's something, I can't remember if it's Tennessee or not, but it's almost like you get these points, and these points are how you can get into bigger events like the football games and stuff like that. So like by going and seeing, I don't know, watching the water polo, or like, it's kind of like they're trying to get the students more engaged in sports that you probably wouldn't normally go to. Maybe you're not a big softball person, but if you go to enough softball games, you get enough points to where, hey, I can go to the football games now, or like your tickets are cheaper or something like that.
Yes, they are called T credits.
Yeah.
And you can earn T credits by checking into ticketed and non-ticketed university events. What do T credits get you? Are reward points for students, tax
credits.
yeah, no. Reward points, what you get, you can use them to get into other ticketed events. So the more events you go to, the cheaper it is to go to other events, essentially. And so you were right. So
it's kind of, I guess that's kind of like a cool little thing where it's like, you just have students who obviously, if me and you, and we're going to Michigan, we want to go see the football games. We don't care about really the other things, but it's like, oh, well, if you go to 15 other sporting events and it's like, oh, hey, the baseball team's playing, we'll go watch the baseball game or whatever. And it's going to save us time and money for the football games. It's like, why not? And it gets exposure to the other sports that are going on too.
Right. Exactly. So overall, Alabama, I would give you a solid A. Or an A minus. I would give Michigan an A. I would give you, like B plus, A minus, somewhere in that range.
I do got to ask, did you check out the concession stand at all?
I did. So okay. All right. The food is fine. The food was fine. It was stadium food. I will dock them because they have not gone all cashless, and Michigan has gone personless. Michigan has gone person. So when you go to a Hershey Bears game, for those of you who live in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Even the Wells Fargo's that way too.
Yes, you can go and just grab stuff, put it on the thing. It looks. You scan it. You swipe your card. You got to get a display stick. That's what Michigan has gone to. Makes it very seamless. However, while you're standing in the long lines for both bathrooms and concessions, they do have the TV broadcast on TV, so you don't miss a moment of the game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So,
but the food was okay. Chicken fingers, French fries, hot dogs.
I did
anything like
hot dog
unique?
And a pretzel. No, they had barbecued sandwiches, pulled pork sandwiches. Now we were on the upper terrace, so maybe they had unique stuff, kind of lower.
Probably I don't know how their sweet game is. Like their club sections.
Carrie got Dippin' Dots. Those were very good. She let me have some of her Dippin' Dots.
All right.
They had some ice cream, but that just looked like standard kind of cheap
ice cream. Yeah. Standard, Hershey's ice cream.
Yeah. Nothing was inedible. Again, the free water, that was a game changer. They had free water stations all throughout the stadium.
Yeah, that's nice. But it also makes sense when it's all like
for sure.
75% of the season, it's 108 degrees outside.
Right. For sure. No, they have it figured out. And again,
that's nice.
I would hope that and when we went to leave, it was everything, you had to go a certain way. You got off, you got on the highway, and you were gone. So leaving the stadium, we didn't sit in traffic a lot. So it was a good experience all around. It was great job, Alabama. Figure out your offense a little bit. Oh, your running game? Dude, got to figure that out if you want to compete in the playoff. I just want to make sure I have the right stats here. I don't think they ran for 100 yards. And then we will get into next week's stuff. They ran for their leading rusher had 21 yards. They have 56 yards rushing on the day. Jam Miller ran the ball 8 times, 13 yards. Daniel Hill ran 7 times for 21 yards. That's a recipe for a disaster come playoff time. All right, so we will fast forward to week 12 and look ahead. And we are going to look at some of the smaller schools because I'm going to kind of wrap this all into one segment. Specifically, we are going to look at ACC. We are going to look at Virginia Duke. Number 14, Virginia goes on the road to Duke. Duke is 5-4. and 4-1 in conference. They have lost every single out of conference game. However, they are still in the mix for a conference championship. If Duke were to make the conference championship and win the conference championship game, it is plausible that the ACC gets left out of the college football playoff altogether. And let me explain why. The Navy Midshipmen are 7-2, and the South Florida Bulls are 7-2. They play each other this weekend, so that'll sort itself out. If you go down to Conference USA, the Kennesaw State Owls are 7-2. The Yukon Huskies are 7-3, but they don't have a conference or a conference championship game. In the Mountain West, you have the 7-2 San Diego State Aztecs. And in the Sun Belt, James Madison is 8-1 in the East. And in the West, Southern Miss is 7-2. So if you're going to sit up here and tell me that the committee is automatically going to rank it is, again, remember, the 5 highest ranked conference champions that get automatic bids. And if you're here to sit and tell me, let's just say South Florida finishes 10-2, and James Madison finishes 11-1, right? And Kennesaw State finishes 10-2, if you're going to sit here and tell me that they are going to take at that point in time, 8-4 conference champion from the ACC and not South Florida or James Madison, I'm going to tell you you're out of your gourd. I think it is a possibility more than 30% that the ACC doesn't get any automatic bids in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, that's because who's the highest right now? Georgia Tech, huh?
Yeah.
At 14. Well, according to the AP, which is a joke, but yeah, I mean, James Madison takes care of business. James Madison's probably going to be a top 15 team.
But here's my thing. I don't even think you got to be top 15. In that scenario that I gave, I think Duke's like 24, maybe. So all you got to do is be 23 or better if they win the conference championship. I think Duke is like, I don't
know, dude.
Right.
Dude,
that's
them
what
losing
I'm
to
saying.
UConn, I think, pretty much put a hammer in that season.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think these group of fives this is a year to be group of 5.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If you're going to do it and a group of 5, this is your year. And this is for a conference that was freaking out, the ACC, specifically Florida State and Clemson, who aren't even relevant in the conference championship race this year. Well, they were suing their own conference 6 months ago.
It's a good time to be a group of 5.
Yeah.
But it's a really bad time to be Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's very scary to be Notre Dame right now. Yeah,
because if Notre Dame, they play Pitt, which that's another.
You think it's going to be a
no?
blowout?
It's not going to be it's not going to be close. It's a blowout. It's another stupid. I said this before with game day. They had the perfect opportunity to do something awesome. They could have came to Lancaster, Pennsylvania this weekend for Franklin and Marshall versus Johns Hopkins, which is a 24v4 matchup, which that would have been cool. I get why they're going to Pittsburgh because they haven't been to Pittsburgh in a long time, and it's McAfee's hometown. So I understand that portion, but the game's going to be terrible.
Watch it be the best game of the season. The best game. I mean,
I guess it technically could be, but I just don't see it. If everyone kind of holds steady, Notre Dame's ranked 9 right now, and they, if Pitt doesn't finish ranked, USC doesn't finish ranked, they have technically no ranked wins, 2 ranked losses. They're going to be kind of like they almost have to get the 11 seed.
So because
you're not going to leave them out,
and then the Big 12, they might. I mean, Utah's 13 right now. So say Utah goes on a run, finishes 10-2, but doesn't make the conference championship game. With them being 13 right now, they could be very close to top 10 and maybe even jump Notre Dame. BYU and Texas Tech, assuming they kind of finish the season as they have started, they too could be. So the Big 12 might get 3 in this scenario, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the conference. The conferencing again is kind of killing Notre Dame,
Yeah.
which I think it's always going to be. I think it's always going to be an issue, and it's always going to come down to the very last week, and you're going to sit here, and that has to be the hardest conversation that they have is, what do we do at Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can penalize them for not being in a conference, but you can't penalize them so much that it's like just 100% unfair saying that they can never be in the playoff. But when their resume isn't that strong, you're like, well.
All right. I agree with you. You made the point better than I could ever make the point. So I'm going to leave it there. But I am going to have you pick this game between the Virginia Cavaliers and the Duke Blue Devils. Again, 5-1 in the ACC versus 4-1 in the ACC. Duke is favored by 6.5, and Virginia just keeps escaping. Now, they did not escape Wake. Technically, that was an upset. So the committee does release their rankings here. We are recording this at 6:30 on the Tuesday, Veterans Day. By the way, shout out veterans. Thank you, everyone, for your service. Sorry I didn't get to that sooner. So is Virginia still ranked? We'll have to see what they do with that. But let's assume they are still ranked. Virginia, Duke, who you got?
I'm gonna go Duke, but I don't think Duke covers that 6.5. I think this game is going to be close. I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia has the lead going into the fourth, but I think Mensa is going to get Duke going, and they're going to kind of score late.
Mensa's having a very good season, 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. The problem is when they play non-conference teams, they turn the ball over like crazy. They had like 5 turnovers against Illinois. That's the only, like they move up the ball up and down in the field on Illinois. They just turn the ball over a ton. In conference though, they don't turn the ball over at all. Virginia's just been escaping. Then it bit them in the butt against Wake Forest. I'm taking Duke, and I'm taking Duke to cover the 6.5 because I don't believe in Virginia at all. So give me the Blue Devils of Duke at home as well. All right, now the flip side of this is if we're going to cover an ACC potentially not getting in, who's your group of 5? And I think the leader, I'm not sure that we have rankings past the college football playoff rankings. I'm pulling that up now.
I mean, it would probably just be the others receiving votes, I would assume, would be 26, 27, 28, 29.
I would assume so, but where?
In theory.
But like they have, because this is week 12. So let's go to week 11 and see. Oh, they do have their complete ranking stop at 25. So, I mean, we can only really go off of the AP here, but I digress. So what game was I? Oh, this is USF, South Florida, and Navy, both sitting at 7-2. This is for control of the American Conference. So far, neither of them are receiving votes. However, South Florida is 25 in the AP currently, so this is big time. Again, we will have to see what the committee does. So South Florida is favored by 10.5 on the road against Navy, who just got their doors blown off by Notre Dame. Robert, you called that game. So what you got for this one? Can Navy pull an upset on South Florida?
That is going to totally rely on if Blake Horvath is playing or not. He did not play against Notre Dame. So I still think South Florida probably wins this game. South Florida, I think, is just more of a jump out with the lead and try and play with the lead, where Navy is more, we're going to ground you out and get the lead and then hold on to it. But I think South Florida beats them to it.
I actually think the best team in the American isn't either one of those two teams. I think it's North Texas who will get a big win at UAB. I agree with you. I think that eventually these service academies triple option, it just kind of falls apart late in the season, especially if you're able to get the lead early and then always make Navy Army, Navy, Air Force play from behind. I do like South Florida in this. Byron Brown has been playing outstanding football this year. So give me South Florida to go on the road. They're favored by 10. I'm not sure I like them to cover, but I do like them to get kind of a win and kind of jump out to a lead and hold on. All right, Notre Dame and Pittsburgh. You said this is a Notre Dame just beat down.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is gonna be a big game for CJ Carr. Jeremiah Love, he's probably gonna just go off. Pitt's just one of those teams. Ever since they lost to
West Virginia.
yeah, that the kind of, I don't know. And I know they switched quarterbacks, and it has made a big difference. But it's just, I don't know. I don't see how they hang around Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's hitting their stride. I think Notre Dame just goes to Pittsburgh, handles business, and I'm back here on Tuesday talking about how there's another just bad game for game day.
Fair enough. I'm actually going to agree with you, but not because of any of the reasons you gave. They did presser their head coach. Name escapes me. Pat Narduzzi, is that his name?
Yeah.
Did presser, and he basically said, "I don't care if we lose 100-10. This means nothing for the ACC. It's not about this game. It's for the next two." You saying that in your Monday or Tuesday presser, Monday, Tuesday, whatever day it is, presser, that's a bad sign. Give me Notre Dame in a big way. Notre Dame knows they got to meet a statement. Also, Jeremiah Love, got to be in your Heisman consideration. I'm hoping so. He's starting to find his stride, and he is the reason Notre Dame is winning these games. CJ Carr's not a bad addition, though. Okay, so we did 3 games so far, so we will continue with... I got to find a game. Here,
Iowa
James,
USC.
you want to do Iowa USC? Great, let's do Iowa and let's do Iowa USC.
So, of course, right now Iowa's still number 20. They're
Yeah.
more than likely not going to be ranked.
I'm going to guess, yes.
And we have the prototypical east side of the Big Ten traveling to the west side to USC. I'm going to assume that USC is going to win.
Okay.
But I think this is going to be a lot closer. Iowa knows that Oregon escaped and they should have won that game. Kirk Ferentz is going to get that team fired back up again. And I don't think the 6.5 that USC's giving, that this game's got to be a lot closer than that. I don't think quarterback for USC.
Oh, Jade Maeva.
Yeah. I think he might have a rough day. I think Iowa's defense keeps it close. But ultimately, I would have to assume that USC
Finds a way to win at home.
Yes.
Jaden Maeva over his last couple of weeks he had a pretty good day at Northwestern, but previously to that, he was not great. He was not terrific, especially against Notre Dame. He was real bad. I want to agree with you, but also this is Iowa away from home, and
right.
Just something about this USC team, they're stumbling and mumbling about. I like USC to win, as you do, but I also like them to cover. And I'm not saying this is a 14-point win. They can win by 7 and still cover. So I think they cover by 7-10. They win 7-10 somewhere in there. But I do think you look up late third quarter and it's like, I was only down 3. And then USC gets a touchdown mid fourth quarter and kind of puts it away. So I do like USC in this situation. All right, Alabama and Oklahoma. Oklahoma is living off this survive and advance mentality because one more loss, and I do believe they are out of the college football playoff because that would be 3 SEC losses, no matter how good. The storyline of this game is because Alabama's defense is real nasty, and it is very good at stopping the run. Can someone other than John Mateer run the ball for Oklahoma? Alabama is 6.5-point favorite at Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think Alabama gets all bunch of that 6.5, and I do think it's another blowout. I don't think that John Mateer or they find a running game with someone other than John Mateer. I think that hurts them. He can only do so much. Alabama just is in this mode of being really good right now. Ty Simpson has 21 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think he does throw another on Saturday. I don't think it matters. Give me Alabama minus the 6.5.
Yeah, I'm fully prepared to turn this game on at 3:30. Watch Oklahoma get the ball, drive down, kick a field goal, take the lead, and then that's probably their only lead. And then Alabama gets the ball, and then that's kind of all she wrote. 6.5 is kind of disrespectful to Alabama, in my opinion, because Oklahoma, Mateer, he hasn't been the same since he hurt his thumb or his hand, whatever it was. The Alabama defense plays very well. If Alabama finds a whiff of a run game, it's kind of murder she wrote for them.
So, and I think that's a big difference because, thank you, I have just recency bias. Alabama doesn't have a run game either. So I'm not going to sit here and say they're a juggernaut, but I do think Ty Simpson is better at throwing the ball than John Mateer is and sitting in the pocket. I also think that Ty Simpson has better weapons between Ryan Williams and, more importantly, Jeremy Bernard, who was a fan favorite based on the crowd reactions when they announced his name. So, yeah, just some more reasons for Alabama to win. And then finally, we are going to talk about hopefully the game of the week, which is number 11 Texas going to number 5 Georgia. Georgia is favored by 6.5. So that should say something. Arch Manning seeming to sort of maybe find his groove. Georgia just turning it on. They kind of messed around for the first quarter and a half this past weekend, from what I understand. And then they turned it on. Georgia has yet to play a complete game of football. The Texas defense has been playing complete games of football, but the offense, and specifically Arch Manning, just has fallen asleep at so many points. So it's number 11 Texas going to Georgia. Remember, when this was last year and Georgia went to Texas, this was a beatdown in more ways than one, and Arch remembers that because Arch did get some snaps in there. So, do you like the Bulldogs or do you like Bevo? Who you got?
I am going to take. I think this is where, and this is where I'm going to be 100% wrong, but I think this is where Georgia gets got.
Okay.
And I think that the SEC playoff picture and conference championship picture gets a little bit more iffy. I think we finally see another SEC referee get screamed at by Kirby because Kirby's not getting his way, and he's going to throw his hat and he's going to get all animated. Oh, his visor, whatever, gets all animated again like he does. This is either going to be a huge win for Sark, because we also have to remember that the Giants fired Daboll, so now there's the Giants' positions open, and we know that Sark is not afraid to leave.
Yep.
So
even though he says he's not,
yeah, this could be one of those. If Texas rolls into Athens and Georgia just puts belt to ass, Sark might be leaving.
So you're rolling with Texas.
I'm going to go with Texas.
Okay. So
I'm going to make my mistake early.
I kind of like it because Georgia also has the longest home winning streak, I do believe, in the SEC now. Do they not?
No, because
Bama beat them.
Bama beat them.
I'm remembering that incorrectly.
Because then it was Missouri, and then Bama beat Missouri.
Yeah. So now it's probably Alabama.
Yeah, I think it's Bama again. Yeah.
Okay. So I am gonna roll with you.
Yeah.
Because I like seeing. everything I've stated. Arch seems to be figuring something out. Their running game is up and down. Sark's a great play caller, and Texas's defense has kind of hung on there through the stretch. Georgia has not played a complete game yet, and until I see that, I think they might get got again, which would be very what the SEC. If the SEC wants 5 teams in, they need Texas to win this game. That's all I'm gonna say with that. So I like Texas to cover the 6.5. At the very least, I think Texas covers the 6.5. Okay, cheapest ticket, most expensive ticket. I just want to make sure I covered everything, and it does look like I did. So cheapest ticket, it looks like you can go to the NC State Miami game for $3. Miami fans, where are you at right now? Because you're ranked at 18, and you're not necessarily out of getting not an auto bid, but a at-large bid. So your fans need to show up, and you need to show out and maybe win some games. The most expensive ticket, Robert, I don't know if you looked through, but I think I'm seeing $260 from Texas, Georgia.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
All right, so you can go to Athens and experience that for $260 per ticket.
Sure, it's a great time.
Yeah. I don't know. If it's anything like Alabama, I'm sure it's a fine time. Indeed. All right, we still can't get this parlay right. Even our locks, even the layup week that we sort of kind of took that then Robert backed out on didn't work. But my layup still didn't hit. My 14-point Washington East going west didn't even work because Wisconsin got a conference win finally and beat Washington. Michigan needed Washington to keep winning to kind of pump up their resume, but it is what it is, and I digress. The only one to actually hit wouldn't you know it, Mr. AKA himself, Simeon Schlicker. His bet was the only one to hit of the parlay. So we went 1 and 3 in the parlay. Online sports gambling is illegal in the state of Alabama, so I was able to put no more bets in, and maybe that's a good thing for that case. However, I've been hot in terms of betting for everything outside of this parlay. This parlay is the bane of my existence. I kid you not. Mr. Simeon is taking North Texas money line against UAB. They are 18.5-point favorites. I do not hate that at all because, again, we are just trying to get anything to go in the hoop at this point in time, okay? We are just on the verge of an unprecedented collapse. We have not won anything since week 2. So, Robert, do you have anything?
Yeah. So since I'm a glutton for punishment,
oh my gosh,
and because I like to make giant mistakes, I'm gonna take Penn State minus 7.5 over Michigan State. Someone's got to win in the Big Ten here. So, yeah,
someone's got to win it. Okay, so you're taking what time is that game?
That is a 3:30 game.
Okay. I got to find it here. So you're taking the minus 7.5.
Yep, Penn State's going to win by 8. That's all I need.
All right. Oh, no, not. I see what I did. I messed up. Everyone, I messed up. Don't worry. What I'm going to do is James Madison is on a roll right now, and they are favored by 21.5. James Madison has a playoff berth on the line if they keep winning. It's not sexy. The overall odds of this is minus 1,700, and if you parlay these three together, which is Penn State minus 7.5, James Madison money line, and North Texas money line, you get 120 plus 122, which if you bet $1, you win $1.22. So do that math. If you bet 10, you win $10.22. That's who I'm going with. I'm going with James Madison outright money line. Trying to get on the board here. I need anything and anything to go through the hoop right now. I can't even get a right-handed layup to go in.
So what you're saying is my bet's the one that's getting us the extra 20 cents.
Yeah, pretty much. So
yeah,
congratulations.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey,
I'm trying to make us money here.
Hey, you're doing what you do. Well, you win all your money back, so technically, it is what it is. Okay. I think that does it. And there's music there somewhere. Thank you, everyone, for listening to our ranting and raving. Like, subscribe, share. Wash your hands, you filthy animals. Go follow us on TikTok, 4th and 1 Pod. Instagram, 4th and 1 Podcast. We'll see you next week. Enjoy your college football Saturday.